With me today is I guess he's an old friend of mine. He's been around for a while. And Stephen Palk. Say hello, Stephen.
Hey, everybody.
Stephen Palk is, I don't know what your title is. I told you I don't prepare for these, and I was serious. I don't know do you have a title?
Depends on who you ask.
What's a clean official title that you have with the Hope Center Ministries?
I am a regional director at Hope Center Ministries.
Oh, okay. All right. That boils it right down. So anyway, we'll get to where I first ran into you here in a little while, but Stephen works with a great group called Hope Center Ministries, works with guys who have maybe gotten it off the rails a little bit and needed a way to help get it back on the track in a good, a good Christian-based way. Is that a good way to say that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. We'll get to all that here in a minute. And I want to welcome you to Mike the Baptist. There's only a couple of rules. They're not really rules. It's just things I want to forewarn you of. One is I don't want any churchy talk. This is not about churchy talk because real people don't talk churchy. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So we're just going to have a conversation here and do our best not to be churchy.
All right.
Now, if you get a little churchy, I will buzz you.
Gotcha.
And that will be your warning to dumb it back down.
Gotcha.
So...
dumbing down things is my specialty.
Yes. Most of the people I've had on here so far, that's been a specialty of them. And so that's why I had them on here. So you were selected for a reason. The only other thing is if you get tired of me asking questions, you can ask a question. This is kind of a twist on the interview show. Nobody's really picked up on that yet. But so if I get too personal, dig too deep, or something crosses your mind, you ask a question.
Gotcha.
Okay. Other than that, let's start at the beginning. Do you know how much you weighed when you were born?
I think it was about 8 pounds.
Why do people know this? Because I don't have a clue.
Yeah.
And everybody I ask that to, they have a number.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
did you memorize that, or
no? I just remember Cindy looking at me and saying, "Look here, boy, 8-pound baby."
You remembered that?
Yeah, she said it to me all the time.
That's a good memory. Is this your nurse that delivered you?
No, it was my mom.
Oh, I thought you were talking about. I remember Cindy looking at me and saying, "Whoa, you're 8 pounds."
Yeah, Cindy's my mom, and she used to tell me all the time, "I brought you into this world. I'll take you out of it."
Really?
Yeah. I was such a great kid.
Well, yeah, we're going to get to that too because we all were at one point. But so anyway, and the last person I had on here asked if I knew how long they were because they put that on your birth certificate, but they don't put that on your death certificate. So I still don't understand that. Do you know why they wouldn't do that?
I have no idea.
Like he was 111 inches, but they don't do that.
Yeah, I know 8 pounds, something ounces, and as far as a foot, 2 foot, inches, I have no idea about that. I catch the first part of it that I think is important, and the rest of it's just white noise.
This is a good answer.
Yeah.
That's a really good answer. That's a prepared answer. So, all right, I know you are from Waverly, Tennessee.
Yes.
And Waverly, what is that, about 60 miles or so west of Nashville?
Yes.
Rural town?
Yes, Loretta Lynn's.
Oh, yeah. She's, what's the name of her little community?
Loretta Lynn's Dude Ranch.
Dude Ranch, but isn't there a name?
Hurricane Mills.
Yep. So you're just a stone's throw from there. In fact, my wife and I, not long ago, sometime last year, we did a little triangle over there. We went to Waverly, ate at your mother's diner, and then I think we went over to Loretta's place, and then there's a state park, Johnson something.
New Johnsonville Historic State Park.
Yep. Yeah. We went over there and kind of did a little triangle, and then left the area. So, when were you born, Stephen?
1978.
You were born in 78?
Yep, 78.
Let me tell you why this hurts really bad. That's the year I graduated high school.
Ooh, so you got me by 20 then.
Ouch.
Just about.
Pretty close to it. That kind of stings right there. So, are you from Waverly? You grew up there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's funny you say that because I'm hearing that from people that I got coming in the Hope Center now. So I get it. I get how you feel.
You're hearing what?
That these guys are born the day I graduated from high school.
Oh, isn't that odd?
So it's funny you say that because it's happening to me quite a bit now.
It comes around in a really odd way sometimes. But so having been to Waverly, I'm from the hills of west Arkansas, really rural. But I'm assuming that Waverly was probably very rural. when you were growing
very
up.
Very small town.
Yep.
Everybody knew everybody.
Like one street kind of through the middle of town, and then
that's it.
A few stores on each side. And so as a kid in Waverly, what did Stephen Palk do over there in Waverly as a kid?
Lots of drugs.
Well, as a kid?
It started early, but in Waverly there wasn't much to do. It was either hunting, fishing, playing sports, school, or we just rode around that one strip. There was this little plaza. You drive around the square, and you go down to the courthouse, drive around the courthouse, come back, and you did it over and over again.
I know that routine.
That's what we did.
We had a 4-lane in my town, and it ended on top of Backbone Mountain. So you drive all the way up Backbone, and you drive back down the 4-lane, past all the stores, and turn around and keep doing it again.
Yeah.
Same thing in Waverly.
Yeah, there's a couple of payphones you'd hit in between there.
Yep. So when you were a kid, were you a good kid? I mean, before you got into trouble. I'm talking about when you were 8, 10, 12 years old, or did you start kind of early?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd like to think all kids are good. It's just the raising that makes them bad.
Huh. Maybe.
So my house, it was always a party. So that's kind of the environment I grew up in. Broken home, divorce, drugs, alcohol, you name it. That's what my life consisted of.
So you grew up in that atmosphere. Huh. Well, tell me about that. I mean, do you remember like being a really small young kid? Do you remember way back just seeing that your whole life?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. Yeah, I remember the drinking, the partying, the smell of pot from an early age. It was just always something going on, and then when my parents got a divorce, everything really went downhill then. And,
how old were you then?
I say I was probably about 10, 11.
Okay, not yet a teenager.
Yeah, I started staying with my grandmother a lot, just in and out. Mama lived up here on this corner, my other granny lived over here, and I'd just be back and forth from their houses.
So everybody was right there in Waverly, close together, and
my entire family lived up on that hill.
Did you stay in contact with both your parents?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I still talk to them today.
Yeah, but did you then? I mean, was it a little rocky at times?
It was rocky. My dad struck out. When he took off, we didn't see him too much for a lot of years. He took on a whole new life, got remarried, and had more kids. Just moved to a different town. So we hardly ever saw him.
So, I don't want to get real personal there. I just wonder how that. I didn't have that, so I can't relate exactly to it, but I can see how that would. I don't know, maybe kind of affect your outlook on things somewhat. So, I guess this is building up to the escape part.
Yeah,
that people talk about.
Yeah, so growing up like that, there was no structure. There was nobody ever looked at my report cards. I didn't have to come home. Now you can imagine being anywhere from 10 to 17. Never had to go. Didn't have to come. Didn't have to call. Didn't have to do anything. I just did whatever I wanted to do. It was like nobody cared.
Oh.
So I didn't care either. I'd pick a different friend to live with. From the time I was in the 8th grade, I lived with a guy named Brenton Nichols. When I got to a freshman, I lived with a guy named Jason Yates. When I became a sophomore, it was Stephen Cox. It was Carson Plant. It was, it was a different person that I just stayed at their houses.
So you're kind of just on your own from way back.
Yeah.
Huh. So I'm asking you all this. I'm kind of building a narrative here. I think that's the right word. Sounds good. Sounds professional. We're building a narrative. I'm basically trying to figure out how you got to this other place in your life where we're going to. But the small town I grew up in, there's some little drug activity, a lot of drinking, just carousing around, being very ornery. I think the culture has changed since I was a real young guy and growing up in the middle. I think the things you grow up in the middle 20 years later when you came along was a lot worse than when I was, and I really suspect that nowadays it's even worse than that. So you were exposed probably to stuff that's a lot worse than just a little alcohol and some pot.
Yeah. Oh man, we were full blown drug addicts, selling drugs in school. Acid was a big thing back then. We'd go to school taking acid. We wouldn't make it long in there because everything would start changing colors on us and we'd have to run off and leave. But I mean, it was drugs. The 90s was crazy.
Yeah. So did you have like a little crew of guys that you hung with, and that was just kind of your thing there?
Yeah.
Did you finish high school?
No, I got voted Mr. WCHS and ended up failing and quitting school after that.
Well, we all do that.
Well, I played football was the only thing that kept me out of trouble. I played football. I loved it. Yep. It was my family. I'd latch on to anything that was kind of family oriented for me. So that was my family. That was my team. Mm-hmm. So my grades were good enough to play football, and I stayed out of trouble long enough so I could keep playing football. But I also had a bunch of personal fouls.
Yeah,
I had so many that the coach got me out of class one day, and he said, "Look, Stephen," he said, "you've got 9 personal fouls. You get one every single game." He said, "If you get another one, I'm going to kick you off the team." And I said, "Yes, sir." And it was Ray Hampton. He's a great man. Mm-hmm. So I thought, you know what, I got this. I ain't gonna get one. Well, yeah,
you got one.
I got one. He kicked me off the team, and I'll tell you, I went downhill after that.
I can guess why you were getting personal fouls, but just
I
guess.
was an idiot. I was a one-man team. Just
yep. Well, you sound like you might have had a lot of stuff kind of built up inside you there somewhere too.
Yeah,
maybe. I'm not a psychologist.
I was just an evil person, man.
Well,
evil.
Yeah. Well, the Stephen I know is not an evil person.
No, not anymore.
But I hear a lot of tales from you from time to time. I'm going, yeah, he might have been a little bit evil.
Yeah.
At times. You think the thing about the crowd you hang around with has got a lot to do with how you wind up, or do you think a man just kind of does his own thing regardless?
I could argue it both ways. You always hear that saying, "Show me your 5 best friends, I'll tell you your future."
Mm-hmm. And
I hung around some rough cats back then. Mm-hmm. We all were. So I can say, yeah, it is the people you hang out with, but I could also say, it was just me.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to do what Stephen wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'd never had any kind of structure in my life, so I just kind of roamed and did whatever. So
you didn't have anybody with a leash on you at all,
no,
did you?
No, not at all.
When did you start driving? When did you first get an automobile and take off down the road?
Well, I never had a driver's license, really. No, just never. Nobody ever took me to get one.
Mm-hmm.
But when I finally did get one, I think I was about 17. I had an old beater car,
mm-hmm.
and it was one of my good buddies. He was old knucklehead too. He was driving it one day and wrecked right in the school parking lot. Got out and ran off.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just kind of
left
stuck
you with
there.
it.
So yeah, I lost that car.
What was the car?
It was an LTD.
Oh,
I mean, it was a
boat.
It was a monster.
Yeah, that was a boat. Those kind of cars just kind of float.
Yeah, it was. When you sit in those seats, it was amazing.
Yeah,
like it was comfortable.
Yeah, I can't tell that. I've got an LTD story about the drive-in theater at home, but I can't tell it.
Oh, yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, we'll just move on. But so, how old were you right in here? Was this
about 16, 17?
Okay. So you won Mr. What was it, Mr.
WCHS?
Mr. WCHS. Did you get your picture and annual and all that?
Oh yeah, all that stuff.
Standing there all mm-hmm. proud and with mm-hmm. Mrs. W.
Yeah, Mrs. WCHS.
And then you promptly quit school and headed out.
Yeah. So I was also a model, believe it or not. So,
no, I didn't. Yeah. I don't think I knew this.
I was in Goodies commercials. I was in a
the powder. That's kind of ironic that you were in a powdered medicine commercial.
Buddy, I was in Goodies clothing.
Oh,
Goodies clothing's probably shut down now. That was the whole thing. J.C. Penney catalog.
Yeah,
did a lot of hair shows back when I had hair. Yeah. Logix, Matrix, things like that.
But you don't think you're the reason they shut down?
No.
Okay, all right. Just want to clear that up.
Let me tell you, I was a popular guy then.
So were these TV or print ads?
I was on TV.
Are you kidding me? I didn't know this. Huh. If I did, I forgot. But
so, I mean, you can't tell from this face.
Well, I just didn't. I don't know. Maybe the tattoos threw me off.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have a lot of tattoos on ads back in.
No,
back
I didn't have
older days.
But yeah, I just think all the popularity, everything, I guess, just too much for me to handle.
I got to ask how that happened.
I was at a Fairest of the Fair pageant at our Waverly, small town. The judges were from Nashville. Uh-huh. They ran a modeling agency. Okay. And I was back there just sitting in the crowd, and they had this girl go get me. They brought me up
They
there.
said, this guy's pretty, go get him.
They said, hey, we got one. So they gave me a card. They said, look, just call us. We'll work out the details. And there I went.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yep.
So you were 18 or so?
No, this is still
when you're school.
Yeah.
Ah. So you made some, well, you got a little bit of notoriety about you.
I sure did.
And that just spoiled you rotten.
Yeah, it did. Like, I just had this thing. I played football. They'd call me pretty boy and stuff like that. It drove me crazy. And just a lot of things,
Huh. Well, I could see how some of this would build up and get all in your head and kind of.
Buck wild.
Yeah, kind of give you the false impression that you could just do whatever you wanted to on the planet.
It sure did.
Which you can. But I would say that some of the rest of your story coming up might be some reasons you don't want to just do whatever you want to do.
You're absolutely right, but there's a price to pay with that life.
Yeah, that's what I understand. So I think we've established, you were a pretty boy, which I didn't realize until now. I didn't consider you that. But
thank you.
And you grew up kind of on your own, sounds like, from about 10 on.
Yeah.
And you had started getting into some, I guess, bad things. I think you could call them bad. I don't think that's wrong. And you had this little bit of fame, and all that together sounds like took away some of your filters to make a good decision here and there.
Yeah.
You weren't thinking about consequences, but then came some consequence. So tell us what happened there, what the consequence was, and how you wound up in that.
Well, I started drinking really heavy, and I am a terrible alcoholic, man. You hear stories of people drinking and being that violent guy or that person that always gets hurt or does stupid stuff. Well, I was the king of that, and me, very addictive personality. When I do something, I am all in.
Right.
If I'm going to drink, I'm going to drink the entire bottle. I'm going to make whiskey. I'm going to, I don't half but anything. Same with meth. I make it, I manufacture it, I sell it.
You're just going to do it all.
16 years. Yeah. So, and when it came to drinking, I would drink until I was completely annihilated. All the scars you see on my face, I did to myself. I busted beer bottles, whiskey bottles, mason jars, you name it. I've put so many stitches in my face, just beat myself to death, wrecked cars, destroyed everything. Turning point was one night I was really drunk. Me and a buddy of mine named Alvy Cook. I had a Chevette. This thing was rough, but you couldn't start it. You had to use a little pocket knife to start it because we'd ripped the ignition off or I lost the keys. But I was drunk one night and we were out by the river. And there was a bunch of cars over in the parking lot. And I whipped off in there and started running into them, playing bumper cars. I'd back into one, run into another. And we were just giggling. We had the best time of our life, man. But anyway, somebody called the cops. And they ended up setting up roadblocks on each end trying to catch us coming out. By this time, I had a flat tire. And we saw blue lights coming. So we pulled right off in the woods, turned the car off, killed it. The cops went by. And I thought, boy, we're going to have to get out of here. So we back out, and that's when I realized I got a flat tire, and I'm like, well, crap, I didn't care. I was so drunk, and we just kept going, and sure enough, man, we got to the top of this hill, and there's cop cars lined up everywhere. There was just enough room for me to pull through, and I thought, you know what, I think I can make it.
Waverly? This was all in Waverly?
Waverly to Johnsonville. So I did exactly that. I pulled right through that roadblock and kept going, and I had a flat tire. The cop, I remember it as clear as day. It's crazy that I can remember this, but he was banging on the side of the window telling me to pull over, and I kept going, about 5 miles an hour. I wasn't trying to run over nobody, but I wasn't planning on stopping. And finally, I had this moment of clarity, and I thought, holy crap, what have I done? So I pull over, and he's screaming at me because the door is locked. He's like, turn the car off, and we couldn't find a pocket knife. My buddy, Alvy, reaches across his pocket knife to turn that car off, and the cop seen that knife, and next thing I know, I heard glass break, and I seen his feet going out the window, and I thought, oh, crap.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm in trouble. And he's still sitting there hitting my windows telling me to unlock the door, and I thought, golly. So a week prior to that, to make the story, to wind it up, I had taken a big vase and hit myself in the face with it, and I put this massive cut in my forehead. Had all kinds of stitches in my forehead at this time. So when the cops got me out of the car, he grabbed me to push me up against the car, and I headbutted as hard as I could right there where those stitches where blood just went everywhere. And I turned around and looked at him. I said, look what you did. It still didn't work, but you know, I ended up getting evading arrest, reckless endangerment, DUI. That was about my third DUI, and I ended up getting on to jail. I stayed in jail for over a year for that. But after that, drinking was over.
Really?
You know, I had a long period of sobriety after that.
After the jail stint?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, the time it helped.
You were 20. You were in your 20s.
I was probably in my 20s, early 20s.
Yep. So you get out of that, you go sober.
Yeah, stayed sober for probably 3, maybe 4 years.
So that's the key there. You said I stayed that way for a few years, and then what happened?
I did meth.
You'd never done that up until then?
Never done it. I was working, building gas stations, pilot gas stations, helping remodel, stuff like that with a company that I'd met, and ended up trying meth. And I don't know, I tell you what, I thought I'd struck gold. I really liked it.
Yep.
And it was like,
felt like you were smarter all of a sudden.
Yeah, I was like, this is what I've been looking for my whole life, And man, I just went crazy after that.
Yep. So being the personality you were, you decided to make it too.
Yeah. So I was stopped working at the pilot places. I'd used recreationally there for about a year. Stopped working, doing the pilots, got a job with the Iron Workers Union because that's where my dad retired from. He got me on there. And so ended up, doing meth out there every single day. I was making good money, so I was buying it, using it every day, working 12s, money hand over foot, but it was a lot of hours. So to stay awake and to keep going, I'd just keep doing meth.
Yep.
And I was selling it out there as well. Well, ended up, somebody got caught, told on me, set up another roadblock, had my picture, had everything, got me. So that was my very first charge. They only found like a half a gram on me. They couldn't prove that I'd sold anything, but they did catch me.
Right.
So I got a simple possession charge, but I got banned from TVA the rest of my life. Can't ever work there again.
Really?
Yeah. So when I lost my job, I thought, you know what? I went to my cousin who's overdosed and died. He's gone now. His name was Chili. And Chili started teaching me how to make dope. And I struck out then and became one of the biggest dope cooks Waverly ever seen.
Really?
Yes.
So you're in maybe your late 20s by this time?
I was from 23 to 20, 25, 26.
Okay.
Because I went to prison when I was 27.
Well, that was the next thing we were getting to. So what sent you to prison?
I got 6 manufacturing charges. Each manufacturing charge held 8-year sentence. One was from Georgia, and all the rest were from Humphreys County. So they ended up running all those together, and they ended up getting 16 years.
So I guess there were 8 different events that took place, and they were keeping track of all that somehow or another.
So, I caught one manufacturing charge. I'd make the bond. Like I said, when you made meth back then, you could make so much money. I mean, it was just tons and tons of money. You could buy Sudafed off the shelves. You could walk into a Walgreens or something like that with a Walgreens bag in
just
your pocket.
fill it up.
Pull it out, fill it up, and walk out.
Yeah.
So, we were just making pounds and pounds of meth and selling it and stuff. So they'd catch me, I'd make a bond. They'd catch me, I'd make a bond. And finally, the last bond I got was over $1 million. And it was just that, it was over then.
Yeah. You did. Yeah. Not too many places to turn when you get to that.
Yeah.
That figure.
Yeah.
Did you have family and what have you that up till then was kind of helping bail you out?
No, I didn't have anything to do with my mom or my dad. Didn't want to hear from them. Didn't want to talk to them.
So how were you getting free all these times? Or did you
I had a bondsman.
Okay. Gotcha.
My bondsman was strung out on meth too.
Yep.
And I'd give him dope. I'd give him money. He'd bond me out.
So you're saying the system was a little off too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back then it was. Meth was an epidemic back then.
Yeah. Yeah. It's bad, isn't it? It's just really bad. What happened after that? You went to prison for a while.
Yeah, I stayed in prison for over 5 years.
I remember going to lunch with you one day at Cracker Barrel years ago, and you called me or I called you. Anyway, we went to lunch. Either you or I were scheming something, so we had lunch. I remember I always order the Uncle Herschel's favorite and get a piece of fried catfish.
Grits.
But they bring you grits, and I don't. Up to then, I just don't get grits. Now I love shrimp and grits. Oh man, a good well prepared shrimp.
I agree.
But just a bowl of grits at breakfast. I remember looking across the table and said, You want these grits? I'm not going to eat them. And do you remember what you told me?
If it comes to grits, it had to be I'll never eat them again.
Yeah, you said no. That I ate grits every day for 8 years in prison. I don't care if I ever see grits again.
Yeah.
I thought, I've nenever forgotten that. But
yeah, that's all you got to eat. You're going to eat it.
So did you do a full 8 years where you're in there 8 years?
No, I did, the full year on the DUI. Did in and out there for a little while. But the last hit, I did 5 straight, and that's when they gave me the 16 years.
Okay. So I guess we're going to catapult on. We're going to take a break here in a minute, but I was trying to get through the prison years.
Yeah.
And did something happen while you were in prison, or did it happen after prison?
Yes. So when I was in prison, this is where it might get churchy, so you might have to buzz me.
I have my hand right over here.
I see you aiming.
It's ready.
I see you aiming. So, I'd go to church here and there in prison. It's a different world in there.
Yep.
When you're locked up with people that are never getting out, you got to watch how you talk to people. Because, they don't care. They just stab you when you ain't even looking and
yeah, that makes sense.
Their life. So you really got to be careful in there. So it's a scary place.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going to church here and there. I still wasn't living right, still cussing, getting covered in tattoos, which you can't do in there.
Mm-hmm.
Just, still being wild. And there at the end, I was getting ready to go up for parole. I was about 4.5 years in. I was at church, and I was watching all these gangbangers meet up, passing drugs, phones, doing all this stuff. And I just remember sitting there thinking to myself, man, this is fake. This God stuff ain't real. None of this is real. I don't even know what I'm doing here.
This was church in prison.
It's church in prison.
Yeah.
And I got up and I left. I went to my bunk that night, and I was just done. Mm-hmm. I had 16 years to serve. I'd only done, 4.5. They weren't going to let me out on parole.
Mm-hmm.
I just remember giving up. And this is where it gets churchy. I'm a little Pentecostal at times.
Mm-hmm.
It's all right. Baptist-costal.
Yeah.
But I was laying in my bunk that night, just, giving up on everything. I decided, prison's where I was going to be for the next, 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
And went to sleep. Later that night, a guard had come in there, and he had woke me up. I didn't know what was going on. He's a great big guy. I thought I'd get a drug test, thought something had happened. I was getting in trouble. I didn't know.
Mm.
Now, he looked at me and he said, "Hey, man." I was like, "Yeah." He said, "My name's John Madden." He said, "My name's Jeff Madden, like the football player John Madden, but I'm a Jeff."
Huh.
I said, "What do you want?" It's 2:00 in the morning, And he said, "Is your name Stephen Palk?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Man," he said, "I got to tell you something." He said, "God told me to stop by here and tell you to finish the race."
Huh. Really?
And when that happened, everything in my life changed, Jackson. I fell apart. That guy, he hung out with me that night right there in the middle of the floor. I cried, prayed, just laid out, begged God to forgive me. Everybody has an apostle they kind of identify with.
Yeah.
For me, it's probably Thomas. I didn't believe Jesus. I didn't believe in him. I wasn't going to believe in him until he showed up, let me stick my fingers in the holes in his hand and see the gash in his side.
Yeah.
I told God that night that whatever he wanted, I was going to do. I'd stay there the rest of my life if that's what I had to do. I was done.
So look, a lot of people say that. What made you think you were going to stick with it?
The fact that he had to come down and show me that this is real, that he loved me that much, that he cared about me that much, that I wasn't done. My life wasn't over, that there was still so much that he wanted to use me for.
And he sent the big Madden guy to kind of...
And when the big football player showed up, prison guard showed up and told me that, my life changed. It changed forever. It hadn't been perfect, I promise you that. There's been ups and downs, but...
Well, yeah, I can attest to it. It hadn't been perfect myself.
I
know a few things that...
I knew I'd never be the same.
Well, yeah, I don't want to buzz myself either right here, but we're going to take a little bit of a breather. And when we come back, we're going to talk about what happened to you after this change took place and where it's led you to today. We'll be back in just a minute. We're just Christians trying not to cuss.
That's right.
Oop, snorting.
This land is your land, is my land. Slap some bacon on a biscuit and let's go. We're burning daylight.
If you like a little meat with your vegetables, then you might like our sister podcast, Our Land with Michael Jackson. It's a podcast for freedom-loving, liberty-chasing, common-sense Christian Americans who still believe that good can and will prevail in the struggle to survive in today's crazy society. It's a little bit politics, a little bit social commentary, and a whole lot not woke. Just search for Our Land with Michael Jackson on your favorite podcast app, or you can subscribe to get the podcast and read our posts at ourland.substack.com. Our Land is a member of Our Land Media Group, the America in the Middle.
This land was made for you and me.
We're back with Stephen Palk, former wild maniac. Got his butt sent to prison. Something happened in there, and it changed him. And the Stephen Palk I know is up to his nose in Hope Center Ministries, helping people. I guess it's been through what he's been through. Get out of that and stay out of it. Tell me how you got there. Once you had the big change and you got out of prison, tell me how you wound up where you are now.
So me, Carson, and Josh Hanna, Carson Plant, we all grew up Waverly, Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
That's where Hope Center started.
Mm-hmm.
Me and Carson, we went crazy. Mm-hmm. Josh was always a little different. You know, like some of the nights when we'd get drunk, we'd go break into the church, eat the communion bread and ask for forgiveness, use the telephone in there to call girls. And we didn't break in, the door was open, we'd just go in there and use it. But,
right.
You know, it was always a little different. Like we'd get saved every weekend.
Yeah.
But, you know, Josh ended up becoming a pastor at the Waverly Church, changed his life radically,
yep.
you know, and was constantly on me and Carson about changing our lives. We wasn't trying to hear all that stuff. So I ended up going to prison. Carson was the very first resident at Hope Center. So Josh got the Hope Center started, and Carson was the first resident. I went to prison, you know, 5 years later when I get out. It's established. It's going good. Carson's the director there. He's running the show. Josh is still the pastor in the church. So I start working for them. They're paying me $50 a week, which was great. Praise God for that, because that's all we had back then. And every once in a while, we'd find tree jobs to do, and they'd pay me a little more. We'd split wood at the bottom of the hill, and we sold it. That's how Hope Center made money back then. You know, we did what we had to do. I did that for a little while. Then an opportunity came open for me to move up here to Springfield, Tennessee, to start mowing yards with one of my best friends growing up with me, Josh and Carson. His name was Stephen Cox. So I thought, here's my chance to get out of Waverly. I thought, if I stay here, I don't know if I'll make it. You know, I got to get out of here. You know, this can't be where my life was supposed to be. So I moved up here to Springfield, and you know, I'm going up here. Went to church over at 24 Church there in Pleasant View. You know, still living right, still doing good. And Teresa Biggs, like I said, Josh lived up here. Teresa Biggs' daughter had passed away. I don't know how, but when she passed away, Josh did the funeral up here, and he asked everybody in there who would come to a church service. He started a church. Everybody in there raised their hands. So they started a church on Teresa's back porch. And that's right after I moved to Springfield. And I thought, this can't be a coincidence. So I start going to the church on the back porch, Josh and all them. About 6-7 months later, they start asking me about becoming the campus pastor at the church. I said, absolutely. I looked at my girlfriend who I was living with at the time. I said, we're getting married. Which is Emily. We're still together. Got a bunch of kids now, but got married. We were, you know, going to church and became the campus pastors over there in White House. I realized that that's not what I'm supposed to do. I am not a pastor to church people.
Yeah, many people do that, especially when they get involved with the kids.
Yeah.
They quickly learn, oh, wait a minute, that's not for me.
Yeah, so I am a pastor, I feel, but I'm a pastor to knuckleheads. Like myself.
Okay,
you know?
that makes sense.
Give me the guys that smoke crack and garbage cans behind McDonald's. I get that. I got them.
Yeah.
So I told Josh and Carson, I said, please, guys, let me open a Hope Center. That's when the girls had moved into this big, pretty house, the Portland women, and I took over the single wide trailer. That's where I first met you.
That's
you started doing a
Bible
study out there. So I mean, that's when I started working for Hope Center. That was probably 2014, 13.
So I showed up there not long after you started doing that then.
Yeah.
So you were still kind of new at that.
Yeah. I was rough back then. I was kicking people out left and right. You know, I wasn't very merciful back then.
Well, you still have a reputation.
And that's from all those years ago.
But now listen behind the scenes, you know, I've had conversations about you that you don't know about with some of those guys. But I've come to, I pretty quickly came to figure out that there was a method to your madness.
Yes.
And maybe you were dealing with people even like myself, who are a little hard headed.
Yes.
And that's what it takes.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes I don't know, maybe a stern message to get through to some of us. But I remember one of my favorite guys that's ever been through the Hope Center is Stacy.
Yeah.
What's Stacy's last name?
Hessen.
Yeah. Stacy's got this great purple velvet sport coat that,
He sure does.
shows up at an event once in a while, and I see that jacket, I'm going like, man, I wish I had it too. I wish I was cool enough to wear something like that.
Yeah, he can pull it off.
He pulls it off really good. But Stacy, when I first started up there, he was either already there. By the way, Stephen asked me to come. There's different guys come up in the mornings and do these hour-long. I don't like to use the term Bible study. I just like to have talks with him. But Stacy either just got there or had been there a little bit. And I remember he had, and he would tell you at that time, he had an anger issue. I remember showing up there one morning. Stacy was, if you could have put a nail in between his teeth, he would have bent it into a U shape. And he was telling me that Stephen's got me picking up sticks out there in that yard. He said, but I'm going to pick them up. I'm going to pick up every stick he tells me to pick up. If I got to dig a ditch with a spoon, I'm going to dig it.
That's funny. Yeah, because I made him dig a stump one time with a spoon.
Yeah, he was gritting them teeth, but he said, I'm going to do it. Nobody's going to get the better of me here. And I guess you and he got to be really good buddies, didn't you?
Stacy's doing great. I watched him. It's one of those success stories where you watch a guy that has no credit build his credit, get his family back, buy a house,
He's such a good guy.
Yeah.
And he also told one of my favorite stories I've heard anybody tell of all the guys I've met up there. Mm. He said that in his past, he had a habit, I think I'm telling this right, that he had a habit of getting off work and stopping by the liquor store and getting him a little bottle, half pint or something, and drinking it on the way home. And he told a story one day about doing that on his way home. Maybe got a little out of his mind at some point. When he woke up, he had crashed because he was saying either that day or in recent times, God, just give me a sign about what I'm supposed to do. Just give me a sign. So that day, he says, when he woke up, he had crashed his car through a brick church sign, and his car had stopped on the front steps of the church. And God had given him a sign. He drove him through it.
Yeah, that's him.
That's such a good story.
Yeah, that's funny.
Well, okay, so this got you to the Hope Center, got you involved, and then you actually took one over yourself. That was the trailer.
Yes.
And so tell us how the Hope Center works. I told you a little bit about my involvement. I got pulled in to come do a Monday morning thing, and I did that for years. COVID, I got away from that COVID. And you know how church people in the summer, they slip away from church once in a while on a Sunday and they go to the lake?
Yeah.
And then it's real hard for them to start back to church in the fall. That's me in the Hope Center. So I've had a little trouble getting folded back in there thickly. But tell us how that's all set up and what you do and how the guys get there.
Yeah. So Hope Center is a 3-phase program. It's a vocational training program, meaning that these guys will go to work. It's how they pay for the program. Mm-hmm. First phase is 45 days, and that 45 days, it's like any treatment that you would go to, secular or, AA, but we use Celebrate Recovery, CR. Mm-hmm. That first 45 days is one-on-one counseling, group counseling, Bible studies every morning. It is a time for them to really invest into the Bible and to build their relationship with God. Mm-hmm. Plus, it helps them to, these guys have been medicated most of their lives. So that first 45 days, we're able to get them to thinking clearly, actually knowing who they are in God, knowing that, you're not a loser, you're not a convict, you're not a junkie, you are a son or a daughter of the King. Mm-hmm. And we instill that into those guys for that first 45 days, and we get them to a point to where when they get to second phase, they're ready to go into the real world. Mm-hmm. They get a little bit more freedom. So they go to one of our vocational training programs around the counties here, wherever that may be. They get full-time employment. And again, this is how they pay for the program. Mm-hmm. It costs us around $34,000 a year for one of these guys to come in here and to pay for everything. Mm-hmm. So that vocational training helps us to offset that cost for each resident.
So part of what they're doing is they're paying their own way, but they're also working. So
Yes.
they're getting back into the groove of working and being involved.
Yeah, every one of us, I tell everybody that comes in there, we all have to have a job.
Mm-hmm.
We all have to hold down a job. That's the way society works. You have to have a job. You're going to have to work 40 hours a week just like anybody else.
Right.
So this helps them to get the vocational training. They get training on the job training for these places that we work. They learn to manage their church schedule, their family schedule, and everything like a normal person would.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's a 38 weeks right there for second phase. So then they're getting close to the third phase. And third phase, they get hired on at that company full time, full insurance, full benefits, the full package. They keep their check. We provide transportation back and forth for them. I mean, they are set up for success at this point in the third phase of the program, while still being counseled, still doing curriculum, still going to church, still going to meetings. And we do all of this for a full solid year with these men. So by the time they graduate, they got a church they belong to, a man they call pastor. They have a job, they have insurance, they have benefits. They've saved up enough money to put a down payment on a car or an apartment, whatever they need, you know, because all that money coming in, they hang on to on the third phase. Plus, we give them a graduation check of $700 to help with anything they may need.
Right.
So the program really does set them up for success. You know, again, they're established in this community because we're after the people wherever the location is. That's the people we want to get in there, from the jails, from the courts, wherever, off the street.
Right.
We build them a support team right there in that community.
And then you got
to go back to
involvement with local churches, which I think is a really good thing, because it gives them a chance to be around some folks who aren't judging them for anything.
Yeah.
Because I know, you know, from my own experience in the past, when you're dealing in things you don't want everybody to know about, you begin to feel like everybody's watching you.
Yeah.
And then you just get further off to yourself. So the church involvement is really unique to me in what you guys are doing, because there's a constant, steady stream of just, you know, the church I go to is filled with great, humble people who don't think highly of themselves, and they shouldn't. But they really care about other people.
Yeah.
And I've always felt like that's one of the things that I have observed that those guys really need to see. They need to be treated like somebody's cousin, because they are.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't, you know, your own cousin that gets in some trouble, you wouldn't disown them.
Yeah.
You would try to hang around them and, you know, kind of figure out a way to.
Yeah, we build that Hope Center around the local church.
Yeah.
You know, we want the biggest family possible for these guys and girls, so that they've got the best support possible. When they see the love of the people and the support that they're getting from everybody and from the church, man, it just sets them up for success.
Yeah.
You know, we build them another family, a family that's sober, a family that's got their back, a family that's going to help them.
It's a good thing. I mean, it's you know, I'm not a numbers guy. I don't really care about numbers. I care about results, but I've never really cared about numbers. But I've talked to enough of the guys in the center, one-on-one, and heard enough of their story. I always liked, when I went up there, I liked to hear them talk some instead of just me talking, because I don't know that much anyway. But you learn a lot. Yeah, thank you. But you learn a lot by listening to those guys about what they want, what they need, who they are, what they're thinking. I forgot where I was going with that. I was going somewhere with that. What were we talking about right before that?
You know, the guys just needing somebody to love them.
Yeah, that's true, but I don't know where I was going with the rest of that. It's my nap time. We're doing this right here in the middle of the day, and it's my nap time. But, well, anyway.
These guys knowing that there are people out there who actually want to hear their story, listen to them, who love them for no other reason just because they love them.
Thank you. That's exactly where I was going. Is everybody's got a story.
Yeah.
And they want to tell it. And there's a lot of therapy, I've always thought, in just telling your story, just getting it out of you.
Yeah.
And all these guys that I've met, when you get through what they've been through, and even like yourself, all the drugging and the prison and everything, when you get through all that, it's just a guy sitting there.
Yeah.
I mean, and should be treated as such.
You know, half the people in the church would have probably done the same thing if they'd have got caught.
Yeah, a lot of them in the churches are they just didn't get caught.
Better criminals.
I don't raise my hand in church for things, but I'll raise my hand for that one.
There's a fine line, you know. So
numbers is what I was talking about. I was getting, that's where I was going. The result is what I'm always interested in, things like you're up to and the Hope Center's up to. And I heard enough of those guys tell the stories of going through other kinds of rehab that the court sent them to, 30 days here, 30 days there, a couple months here, a couple months there. And they just seemed like they just over and over learned to work that system, get through it, and go right back. But the Hope Center's different. What I see in the Hope Center is different. And I guess it lies in what you laid out about what you're up to, what you're trying to build into them. Because I don't know what your numbers are, your percentages of recidivism or whatever that big word is about how many guys go back to doing things. But I know the success rate's pretty good.
Yes.
I've run into a lot of those guys pretty often that have gone through that, and they're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
They're doing pretty good.
So we track everything. Yeah, we're a very results-driven ministry. We base everything off of results, getting things done. Because if not, then we would be like a lot of those other places and just, herding cattle. And we are not herding sheep or herding cattle. We are developing new leaders to take over the world. What we're doing at Hope Center is a revival. As people fall away from the church, Hope Center brings them back.
That's a good way to explain that.
So when you think about it, the people in the Hope Center, they would have never came to church. Their families would have never came to church. They would have never even thought about it. But part of the requirements of being in our program, if you want to see your loved one, you got to come to church. So not only are we after the resident, we're after his entire family or her entire family. If mom and dad want to come see you, they're going to come sit in the church pew with you, and they're going to hear the gospel of Jesus Christ. Therefore, that may change their life. And we go after the whole family unit, from the kids, from everybody. Of course, it doesn't do us any good to, get Jimmy Joe or Sally Sue sober and then send them back into a crack house. Which
is what a lot of those regular rehab things do.
Yes.
It seems like. I'm not judging them. I'm just pointing out the obvious, I think.
Yeah, so that's why I think that's one of the things that's made Hope Center take off like it is. Like we started, during COVID, we more than doubled in size. During COVID, where everybody else was falling apart, everything was going downhill, we doubled in size. We opened up 13 locations in 1 year. So we're looking at opening up 13 again this year. So that's how big this thing is taking off, and that's how big it's getting. Right now we're at 33, 34 locations. By the end of the year, we'll be over 40. We're in the UK. We're in all kinds of different states across America right now, from Hawaii to Florida to Pennsylvania. I mean, you name it, and we're opening a Hope Center there, basically.
How many, you just deal strictly with the men's part?
Yes.
How many men have been through it? Do you know?
Oh, I don't know.
I know it could be a good number to find out. I'd like to know that.
I believe we've got it. I know we've graduated over 1,000 people. And, it doesn't seem like a big number, but the first, I think the first 7 years we were open, we graduated 1,000. This last year that we opened, we graduated 1,000.
That's a big change.
Shows you how big we've gotten.
That's a big change.
Yeah, so because we doubled in size, just in a few short years.
The hardest part of it is you lose a guy once in a while.
Yes, yeah, we do.
You get to know him. I know I've known several guys there that have disappeared, and for a lot of different reasons. That seems like it is the hardest part for me. I'm not as terribly involved like you are, but just my limited connection to it pretty stings when that happens. But it's all the more reason. It's all the more reason that people should, I think, support that. And
fentanyl is the number one killer among men right now, from the ages of 18 to whatever. This is a war that we're fighting. The hardest part for me is when those guys come in the program, they graduate, leave, kicked out for whatever reason, and then I'm seeing their face on Facebook the next day because they overdosed and died.
Yeah.
It happens a lot. It's the nature of the ministry that I'm in.
But it don't make it easy, though.
It doesn't make it easy at all. When you have to call their mom or their dad, or you show up at the funeral and they're looking at you and wondering why it didn't work, and you're having to answer those tough questions. It's the hardest part.
I tell you, addiction is a tough thing.
Yes.
Anybody that's got a little bit of that in their personality knows what that means. People that don't have a little bit of that in their personality, I think they mean well, but I just don't think they really get it.
Yeah.
how really hard it is to not be addicted to something if you've got that in your personality.
Yeah, I like to tell people to quit eating bread for a month.
Yes.
Then come talk to me.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've always been a big proponent of people get involved with you guys ought to have a little bit of living experience so they can relate just a little. I mean,
yeah, addiction comes in all forms, from food to, you name it, porn, food, whatever.
Yeah.
You can be addicted to just about anything. Going to the gym,
Yep.
Addiction comes in all forms. It doesn't segregate. It takes whoever.
Yep.
It doesn't discriminate. Is a better word, but it takes whoever. And it's a real deal. It's a real struggle in our world today.
it's a serious thing. I mean, it's a very serious thing. If you're thinking of worthwhile things to be involved in, that's a worthwhile thing to be involved in. Mm-hmm. A lot of folks may not really understand that, but I would encourage anybody that might hear this who has something like that going on locally where you are, find a way to get involved with that a little bit, and just keep in mind that those men, those women, they're just somebody's cousin, just like your cousin.
Mm-hmm.
And they need somebody to pay them some attention. They really need somebody to pay them some attention. And I think if you ever get around it a little bit, you begin not to be scared of it, because I think there are people who are scared of that.
Yeah, and
they see a bunch of tatted up guys, and they talk a little bit different,
Yeah.
They're saying things like catch a charge, and most people are going like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. What is that exactly?
There's a lot of stereotype with it. Some of the guys, some of them are bad, but with Hope Center, we go through a vetting process. Anybody that's at one of our locations, you don't have to worry about that kind of stuff with them. Yeah. They're just guys like me and you that messed up.
They all are.
Yeah.
I mean, some of them are just,
Yeah, I mean, we don't take violent offenders, sex offenders, nothing like that. We background check these guys and girls, make sure they're safe.
Yeah.
Because we're around families, we're around kids a lot. My kids live at the Hope Center.
Yeah.
They're up there every day. They always ask me, when are the Hope guys coming over? Because they're at my house all the time.
Well, y'all do a good job of how you do it. Mm-hmm. I'm very impressed with what you do up there. So, where's the Hope Center going? Is the idea just to keep expanding? Keep expanding? And
the idea is when we eradicate addiction,
mm-hmm.
then we will stop. And until then, we will not stop.
So you're involved with this thing called
Celebrate Recovery?
Yeah, Celebrate Recovery.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Celebrate Recovery. That's where a lot of our curriculum comes from. We go to CR meetings instead of AA meetings.
Right.
I don't knock AA. It works for some people, but AA is a God of your choosing. Could be this microphone if you so choose it to be, whereas Celebrate Recovery, it is Jesus Christ. We make no bones about it. We don't apologize for it. Our higher power is Jesus Christ.
Yep.
He is the reason for our sobriety. He is the reason we are alive and breathing today.
Mm-hmm.
So we are all about Jesus Christ.
So Celebrate Recovery is a nationwide thing, but you guys elected to connect yourselves to that somewhat.
Yes.
And that works out really good too, doesn't
mm-hmm.
it? I mean, it seems like that works out really good.
It's a 12-step program. 12-step programs work. You've heard those saying it works if you work it. Celebrate Recovery just takes and changes the 12 steps and adds a Bible verse to it, but words more towards Jesus Christ and not a God of your understanding.
Right.
Because the only God of my understanding is Jesus Christ.
Well, that's the way I kind of understand that. I mean, there's a lot of talk out there about other things, but the other things, it seems like sometimes don't have a success story on the end of them that are attached to the things that involve Jesus.
Yeah. We celebrate our recovery.
Mm-hmm.
I've been to AA meetings, and when I go into those rooms, it's like everybody in there's just miserable. They're mad, they're sober, but they're still mad and hating everything. And I'm like, man, you might as well be high. When you go into Celebrate Recovery, though, people are worshiping God. They're happy, hands are raised,
Yeah.
You got some struggles going on, but they generally have joy in their heart now.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Which he has a way of putting that in you if you kind of buy into that, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. My joy is from the Lord.
I'm just buzzing the phrase. I'm not buzzing the intent there, because the intent is real. So we just hadn't buzzed in a long time. We got very serious there. But all kidding aside, the Hope Center Ministries is a serious venture.
Yes.
And but I know a lot of you guys, and everybody has fun, and you have to. I mean, it's like you said. Why would you do any of it if it wasn't good?
Yeah. Recovery can be fun. I mean, Timmy, both. We just took all our guys to Gatlinburg. Had a big party up there.
Again, I didn't get the call on that one.
You can't wipe the smile off these guys' faces when we go up there. They love it. They have a great time. They never realized. I mean, I've taken them skydiving. You know, we've all jumped out of a plane together before. So it's I'll tell you what, they all got saved that day too.
Yeah.
If I thought for a second that they weren't saved, I guarantee you when they jumped out of that plane they were praying, because I did. I know I'm saved, but I just said, Lord, just in case.
Yeah, just kind of polish up on it a little bit.
Just in case, Lord, I missed something.
Well, there again, if I can remember to do it, I'll when I'm doing some editing, I'm going to edit in a web page.
Yes, you can give my phone number out to whoever you want.
Yeah, I just want to, kind of give the Hope Center a little push there, and so folks can contact you. They can contact you and throw some money at your venture.
Absolutely. We have a fundraiser going on right now called Keep Hope Alive.
Yep.
You can go to our website, pick Springfield location. You can buy tickets to the online giveaway we're doing. Mm-hmm. And you get a chance to win all kinds of stuff: Harley Davidson, guns, you name it.
So the truth is, you can't operate things in the world without cash flow.
Yes.
That's just how it works.
Yes. Especially when you're dealing with people who have nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, I've known a lot of good spiritual people who are just by themselves and can't do anything because they don't have the money to do it. So it's okay to give money to things. That's just how it works.
Give money to things that's right here in your backyard that are producing results.
Yeah, and this does.
This is what I tell everybody. Don't take my word for it. Come and see it for yourself.
Yeah.
Come see my house. Come to the Hope Center. Come hang out with the guys.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think people should just go. If you're even a little bit curious about this kind of stuff, you can just go to those houses. They're just a house. Mm-hmm. There's just a lot of guys living there, and they'll be glad to see you. A couple of them will kind of dodge you for a little bit until they realize you're okay.
Yeah.
But then, they'll bend over backwards to help you, and you'll wind up hitting golf balls out into the guy's pasture across the creek there. He probably doesn't like all the golf balls out there where his cattle are, but there's
or the 10 guys out there picking them up so they can do it again.
Several of those are mine, but I don't want them back. Just keep hitting them. We're going to take a little break. That's probably enough serious for right now.
All right.
We'll take a little break, come back, have a little bit of different kind of fun. Anyway, real interesting. I'm glad you came.
Thank you.
We'll be back in a minute. We're just Christians trying not to cuss.
You're looking at a small portable computer called the IBM 5100. It's helping a lot of different people do their work more productively. It weighs about 50 pounds. You can plug it in anywhere. Capacity? About the same as some large computers a few years ago. The 5100 is easy to learn and simple to use.
There are countless combinations of feed we can mix. What is the most economical for any particular herd? That's what I'm figuring out now.
The cost of the 5100 is reasonable. The IBM 5100. It's bringing the advantages of the computer to more and more people. IBM, helping put information to work for people.
Hey everybody, it's time to play America's almost favoriteest new game show, Any or Outie, where we challenge our guests to figure out if a phrase we give them is actually in the Bible or out of the Bible. Sharpen your wits, guest. You're about to be in the hot seat of Bible stuff, because you're the next contestant on Any or Outie. Here's Mike.
So you're actually, I think, just our third contestant on Any or Outie. And I don't know if you've seen it or not yet. But,
you talking about belly buttons?
Nope.
I was like, I'm not taking my clothes off, Jackson.
No, I don't want you to either. I don't care if you're in a commercial or not in your younger life. So anyway, no, here's how Any and Outie works. There's a lot of things, phrases that people say in the world, and even in church, that sounds like it might be in the Bible, but some of them aren't. That's what Any or Outie is. It's my new game show portion of the program.
Makes sense.
And it's your job. I'm going to read you either a phrase or scripture or something.
What version?
Well, we run into this every time. I'm going to have to start announcing a specific version, but we'll work all that out as it comes up.
Because the message could, you could throw anything in there.
Oh, the message, yeah. Now the message, yeah, you could do, but we can sort it out, and it'll be fun trying to figure that out anyway. But here, the concept is, I'm going to read you either a scripture or something like that, and it's your job to tell me, is that in the Bible or out? Is it an innie or an outie?
Gotcha.
So here's number one.
I accept your challenge.
Okay. Little children, we must not love with word or speech, but with truth and action. Now, Stephen?
That is definitely out.
No. Here, now, take your time. I want you to take your time because we have to stretch the program out a little bit. So instead of just answering, I want you to talk out your thought process and come on into the mic just a little bit.
I believe it's truth and love, not truth and action. So unless action in a different version of the Greek or something.
Well, let me read it again. Little children, we must not love with word or speech, but with truth and action.
Yeah, I believe it's an outie.
Now, are you solid on that answer?
Yes.
Because we may have already ran into the version thing that we were talking about. So there's also going to be dramatic music playing under, which is why you're talking out your answer here.
Stevie Wonder.
No, but we'll get to that here in a minute. But that's actually in the Bible.
Really?
Now, wait a minute. So what's your final answer?
I say it's outie.
You say it's an outie?
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's actually in there. But this is the Holman Christian Standard Bible, the hardcore Southern Baptist. But I didn't write down where it is.
I'm going to put on my Independent Baptist hat for a minute.
Yes.
And say the only version is the King James Version.
Well, somebody the other day said that sounded like it's in the King James Version.
Yeah.
Okay, so this clarifies.
Yeah.
This episode of Innie or Outie, just the third episode of it, I think, clarifies that I've got to do some work on the version thing.
Yeah.
So the next time you're back on the program, I'll be ready for you in the version that you are most accustomed to.
I am a New King James guy.
A New King James. Now that's a little bit lighter than
Yeah.
the old King James, right?
Yeah, funny story. When I got to prison, somebody handed me a King James Bible, and I thought I had, smoked myself stupid. I couldn't read it. I was devastated. I thought, I'm stupid, And somebody gave me an NLT later, and I thought, oh, I'm fine.
That's a great story right there.
Yeah, but I like to use King James, New King James. I use each one of them to tell me the story in each way.
Okay, New King James. All right. Well, okay. Let's move on to this one.
All right.
This one won't be quite as bad for you. Here's the question number 2, or phrase number 2. God works in mysterious ways. Now, take your time, Stephen. Don't talk it out. We got to waste a little time here. So
I've never taken my time with anything.
that is true. You kind of right on it. Like when you've been house shopping with me, it's like let's get that one.
Yeah,
well, wait a minute. Let's look at another. No, let's get that one.
That's outie.
You're saying that's an outie.
Yes.
Now this is your final answer.
Final answer.
Let me repeat it one more time. Just be safe. God works in mysterious ways.
I think that was from Forrest Gump.
So you're saying it's an outie.
Outie.
That's right. That's exactly right. That's an outie. They both sound like they're taken from the Bible. The first one, God works in mysterious ways, it says here, is a paraphrase of a 19th century hymn by an English poet who said in that hymn, God moves in a mysterious way.
Yeah.
You hear that one a lot.
Yeah. So the first one really got me, the word action. I thought that does sound like the Bible, but I don't even remember action being in there.
Actually, see, that's probably going to be a translation thing.
Yeah. When this show's over, I'm looking it up because I can't stand to be wrong. I'm prideful,
well,
Jackson.
Yes, but I know you are. But
I pride myself on my humility.
I was trying to help you back into the correct answer there, but I couldn't do it just blatantly.
No, if I commit, man, I got to go all the way with it.
Well, we need to look that up because that is a translation thing.
Yeah.
So we'll, I'll tell you what, we'll look that up during the next break, come back and clarify ourselves. So anyway, okay. So you're 1 for 2.
Yeah.
Here's number 3. In the future, I need to remember to write down the specific scriptures I got these from too, so it'll be easier to go back and look them up.
Yeah.
Your life should be free from the love of money. Be satisfied with what you have, for he himself has said, I will never leave you or forsake you. Now, the best you can, take your time, talk it out. We want to get you to the correct answer here on this
one. The correct answer would be we need the correct translation. Because that sounds like in the Bible. That's in the Bible, I believe, but I don't know just if you're trying to trick me with words or...
Well, if you didn't think I was trying to trick you, your answer would be, is it an innie or an outie?
It's innie.
You're right. He got it. Yeah, now that one sounds like it's in there because it is.
Yeah.
And that's one of those where the translation is not going to change that meaning very much. One way you can probably pick up if I'm trying to misguide you or something is like if you hear the word like Honolulu in the scripture.
Yeah. See, that's what I thought when I heard action. I was like, I've never read a Bible with action in it.
Okay. All right. So you're 2 for 3, but technically you're probably 3 for 3 because of just that one word is what.
I get it now. I think I got it now.
Okay. So
I didn't really understand it at first, but now
you know how it rolls.
You're not trying to trick me with words.
Well, you want me to go back and do that first one again, and so you could re-answer it?
I'll take that lump.
But you're still going to look it up.
Yeah.
Here's number 4. This is our final innie or outie. Really take your time and think about this because...
Yeah, I'm good at that.
Okay. Spare the rod, spoil the child. Talk it out, Stephen. You've got plenty of time. I don't own a watch, and I don't care what time it is or how long it takes.
That's definitely in the Bible. I just don't know about the way it's said.
Oh, that's a really clever answer, I tell you.
I remember hearing a pastor one time talking about the size of the rod that he used to beat his kid.
That's in the King James Version.
Yeah. So I say it's definitely an innie.
You say it's definitely an innie.
Maybe the wording, maybe I'm missing it on something. You know, because you always hear people spare the rod, spoil the child, spare the rod, spoil the child.
Yes.
Like, so I think it's in there, but I think it's missed. I don't know. We just have to look it up. Innie.
I'm going to give it to you. And here's why. Because you're exposing a portion of this program that obviously I need to think through a little bit differently on how to set it up, because spare the rod, spoil the child is not actually a phrase in the Bible, but it's derived from a lot of different things. Proverbs 13:24 says the one who withholds the rod is the one who hates his son.
Yes. So I
so
think it's a play on words.
It's a play on words, but so I've got to make a decision, and you being the mover and shaker,
Bible scholar,
and Bible scholar that you are, the BS that you are.
There we go. Bible scholar.
Yes. No, it's exposing a flaw in the system here, which I'm going to have to address and correct that before the next show. But I'm saying you got 3 out of 4.
Okay.
And being a kind of a nice church guy myself at times, I almost want to give you the first one, but you said no, you want to take the lumps. So
yeah,
I admire a man that will take the lumps. So
I've taken a lot.
Oh, wow. What a great contestant and a fine sport today on Innie or Outie, America's almost favorite new game show. Study up, future guest people. You're next in the hot seat for Innie or Outie.
Okay, we're going to take another little break. And before we take another little break, though, I kind of like to kind of wind these things down, have a little fun like that, and then kind of wind it down with a different way of thinking before we go into the end. And this is how I want to wind it down. If you, Stephen Palk, felt like God had given you something in your head that you feel like he wanted you to share with other people, what would that be? If you could boil it down into a couple of sentences. I mean, if you felt like he had downloaded something to you and you feel like it's part of your reason for being on the planet to relay that to other people, what would it be?
Hey, it's funny you ask that question, because I always think that if I could ever just have everybody hear one thing, what would I tell them? of course, it'd be John 3:16, but also I think I would stress the importance of the relationship, not the religion. Religion is not what this is about. It's about a relationship with Jesus Christ. I talk to God just like I'm talking to you right now. He's my friend. Mm-hmm. He's my savior. He's my buddy. I have a relationship with him. If people can figure out how to do that, it'll change their life. But I know people, when they pray in the King James voice.
Yeah.
Cut that stuff out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Work on your relationship. Be real with God, because God's going to be real with you.
I agree with you 100%. I say pretty often to people that I think the reason I don't do a lot of public praying is because everybody says all the big stuff, and I don't feel. I mean, Captain Jesus is the only thing I can think of that don't get used, and I'm not going to use that.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? But so I love what you just said.
Yeah, when you work with if you're in the line of ministry that I'm in, working with the guys that I work with,
you learn to reel it up pretty quick.
You got to. These guys will pray and cuss. They just don't even know. They don't know any better.
Hey, listen, some of the best Christian men I've ever known cuss a little.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
If you're being honest,
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, yeah. There's been a few. That's a good word. I think you do a good job of relaying that message.
Thank you.
Just so you know.
I used to be a pastor. Did you know that?
I didn't know that, but that ain't your thing.
I quit. It's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
Too much preaching.
That and just I don't get church folk.
Well, yeah. Okay. That's another program.
Yeah.
We'll come back and do a whole one on that sometime. Okay, we'll be back in just a second. Hey, we're back. This has been fun. Old friend Stephen Palk. I'm glad I got to know you. You're good, real people. I like real people. They're easier to deal with. You know what you got.
Yeah.
If they're mad, you avoid them.
Yeah.
If they're happy, it's okay. I just like real people. And you are one. Stephen, I've been involved in a church for 20-something years, so I'm kind of a church guy in a way. I don't know if they think I am, but I am. And so in keeping with the way churches operate, I like to close this program out with a hymn. Mm-hmm. I think it's just the right thing to do. And so.
You don't want me to sing, do you?
Yeah, you and I are going to be the choir here.
You are going to be in trouble.
Well, yeah, but I don't sing that well either. I know a lot of people that do, and I try to get in the middle of them.
Yeah.
And,
as long as it's not Victory in Jesus, we're good.
Well, most of my hymns come from the 70s, and so if you're listening at home and you've got the Mike the Baptist hymn book, turn to page 38, and we'll close out with this hymn, and we'll let Stephen go back to his life, and I'll go back to mine.
Just to clarify the Victory in Jesus thing, I had to sing that song every day in prison. I had nightmares about it for a while.
Really?
Yeah. There was some old guy in the back, and he always yelled that out, "Victory in Jesus, brother." And there we go. I can sing it forward and backwards.
Every time.
Every single time.
So, folks, if you happen to be around Stephen, like at a church event or something, do not offer him your grits.
No.
And don't bring up singing Victory in Jesus.
No. I'll sing it. I'll sing that thing till I'm blue in the face.
Yeah, I know you will. I was just trying to help you out there. Here we go. We're going to close out this hymn, and then we're going to go back to doing other things. You ready?
Oh, you're serious?
Oh, yeah. Sneaking out the back door to hang out with those hoodlum friends of mine. Come on, Stephen. It's church. Greeted at the back door. Well, boy, I told you not to go outside. Come on, you got to help.
Man, I can't.
Yeah, you can. Come on. Trying your best to bring the water to your eyes. Thinking it might stop her from whooping your behind. I wish those days could come back once more. I wish those days ever have to go. Come on, that's a church choir.
Yeah, that's Stevie Wonder right there.
Well, here.
I get it now. I get it.
You ready to do the chorus now?
No.
I wish those days could come back once more. Why did those days ever have to go? 'Cause I loved them so.
Yeah. That's going to be really good when you put the music to it.
No, there's no music. It's a acapella.
Oh, I'm glad I definitely didn't sing then.
Well, yeah, but
that would have been terrible.
Hey, thanks.
Yes, sir. Oh,
good visit.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Glad you had me, man. Anytime you need me.
Yeah. See y'all next time. We're just Christians.
Try not to cuss.
That's exactly right.
Mike the Baptist.